Welcome to the show. I'm Jen. Our very special guest today is Brandon Lee, CBS 5 and 3 TV primetime anchor and leader in our community who is going to take mental health by storm and help impact so many people's lives. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and congratulations on the show. The set's beautiful. I'm proud of you for stepping out into our world.
Yes, well, that means a lot. I mean, you're Emmy-award winning. So I think after this, I'll be getting some tips from him on what I can do better and different.
I just always want to support friends, and you've always worked on the other side of TV, so to see you on this side of the TV, I'm all for it.
Well, we met when you got here, 2013-14, and I appreciate the friendship since then and the support, so thank you for that.
Yeah, God, it's crazy when I look back. I'm like, my gosh, it's going on 8 years since being in Arizona. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Time
well, I'm
flies.
Put it out there now. You're coming back.
Yes.
You will be back again because we're not going to have enough time to cover all of the interesting things that we want to share and how you are really saving people's lives and families. And I want to help share that story. So for those that may not know or be aware of that story, can you share a little bit? I know a little bit is a lot, but a little bit of your story just to give people an idea. Yeah,
so I think it's pretty well known. I mean, anybody who follows me, and I'm even very, very public about it, you know, I'm a recovered drug addict. I struggle with alcoholism and drug addiction for the most of my life, going all the way back when I was 15 years old. I grew up in Orange County, California, Laguna Beach. So I definitely had everything I needed growing up, but I was, sexually molested a lot as a child, and that went untreated. And so at age 15, I already started kind of seeking out other behaviors, and that's when I became addicted to cocaine. And life went off the rails for almost 2 decades. But I did get sober when I was 28 years old. And I've committed to a life of recovery. And it was only a few years ago where I decided to come public. I think I went public about 3 years ago about being a recovered addict because I saw so many people suffering out there. And felt like that stigma of a drug addict was somebody who was homeless, somebody who was poor, someone who was unemployed. And here I was as a news anchor. And I was like, no, people need to see that you could still be successful even if you've had a really rough life up until that point. And so that was one of the deciding factors to finally kind of speak up about it.
Well, that's great. So what I found interesting is you were building your career and finding a way to also navigate your success to, become a journalist, and you were one of the top youngest, anchors or reporters in a top 10 market. So how are you able, at age 27. So how are you able to do that? Because a lot of people, when they do go down that other destructive path, aren't still able to, find a way to mask it. So especially at that age.
Yeah, I was really good at living that double life. I was really, really good. I was taught at a very young age to work hard, play hard. And I was so good at living that double life. I mean, even the closest people in my life when I was in Los Angeles, that's where I hit my rock bottom. I was a reporter at KTLA 5 there. And we would be at the bars until 1:30 in the morning, and I'd say goodnight to all my friends. And I tell people that's when the dark Brandon came out. I would be in the slums of LA at like 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 a.m. in the morning when I was doing hardcore partying. So I lived that double life until I overdosed, and I ended up on life support twice in 2 weeks. And then finally that outer shell finally cracked, that I couldn't hide that anymore. But even then, I didn't even tell my friends I was getting sober. I was going to AA meetings. I was going to these 12-step meetings and getting sober by myself because of that shame, because of that stigma. I still wanted people to see me as this shiny object over here, like this journalist who was winning awards.
The perception of who you are.
The perception is everything in TV.
Right.
But the reality was, I was so dark and so ugly on the inside. I had so much stuff that I needed to fix. I was so broken. And finally, I just couldn't take it anymore. Living that double life was just not worth it anymore.
Was there someone or something that was the catalyst for that?
Yeah, I will never forget. When I was brought back to life at Hollywood Presbyterian Church in Los Angeles, and they put me in this holding room. This little nurse, she had to be 5 foot nothing, came over. I was breaking down crying, and she came over, she held my hand, And she just looked at me and she goes, Brandon, do you believe in God? And I said, no, I don't. And she goes, that's okay, because God still believes in you. Wow. She goes, I have $10 in my purse. She goes, I'm going to give you $10. Just make me this promise when they finally release you from here, you'll go to my church and you'll go to one of these little AA meetings. And I did, and been sober ever since that day. So when I hit 5 years, I got like a 5-year medallion chip in a meeting, and I went back to that hospital into the ER. And I was able to meet the team who saved my life 5 years later, and just told them thank you for saving my life twice and not giving up on me. And I said, because I'm trying to make something of my life, and I make this promise that I'm just going to try and make the world a little bit better.
What a humbling moment, though, for you to go back and actually confront those people for something that could have a lot of shame.
Yeah, because, I don't think, what they told me, the head ER doctor told me as she was walking me to the parking lot, she goes, Brandon, people don't come back. People don't come back to say thank you, and you just gave them a shot in the arm to continue doing their work. I didn't see it that way when I went there. I still get goosebumps when I think about it. And I went back at 10 years as well.
Oh, that's great.
To do the same thing. I think it's just part of my recovery that I will always give thanks to those people who saved my life, because I should be dead, Jen, 10 times over. Like, even before that experience, that month leading up to there, the things I was doing to myself and the amount of overdoses that I did, to know that I was still saved. And that, I tell people today, I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. And my higher power did not keep me alive so that I can show up to work and live a selfish life and make money. Like, my higher power kept me alive for a greater purpose other than myself. And if that means I have to try and just share a message of hope with people who are suffering to help them, that's what my purpose is.
So how do you do that? How do you bring that to others now, today?
Easy. So I work at treatment centers. I speak at treatment centers multiple times a week and work one-on-one with patients who are in treatment, who are depressed, who are addicts. And I write a book. I speak at mental health summits around the country. That is my purpose, right? Using a platform that God has given me for a greater good. Just to be that person, a visual person in the public, to say, I see you, I get you. I'm not speaking at you at all. Like, I've walked in your shoes.
I've been there, right.
And I know how hard that is. And I think that's really important too with people who are addicts and in recovery, is that you need somebody who's walked in your shoes in order to get through to them. Because sometimes a doctor and a psychologist, addicts will look there and go, you don't get it. You don't get it.
Right.
But I can look at them right now and say, no, I get you.
So what are your outlets today? Where do you find some of your excitement or releases from all of that you do carry with you and that you give to others? Yeah,
and I'll be honest with you, I'm not perfect. It gets heavy for me at times. I tell people all the time, I'm a work in progress. Like, I have my bad days too. To act like my life is perfect is BS.
Right. You're not like, I figured it all out.
No, I mean, Eve, I'll be honest with you, isolation has hit me in the last 2 months. I hit rock bottom with depression, but I have the tools to seek therapy. I do trauma therapy twice a week. So there you go. I'm still, like I said, I'm a work in progress. I play tennis 4 days a week. Tennis is my outlet.
Nice.
Like,
always, or is that a newer thing you picked up?
No, 4 years ago I started playing. Okay. So you got to let that dopamine flow. So I'm at the tennis court 4 days a week. I do artwork as an outlet. I have no idea when I start an art piece what it's going to look like, but it's just the act of doing to get you out of here and to get you more into here and just let it, kind of let it release. But we all need outlets, and definitely being in news 24/7, it feels like, and working in recovery, you need that outlet.
Well, we're lucky that you're here in our community giving back to the people here to hopefully save lives. How do you feel that the viewers, fans of yours have been with you sharing your story over the last few years?
I give a lot of credit to my bosses at Arizona's Family, because there's not a lot of stations out there who would support their main anchor being so open about being a recovered drug addict. Full stop, full stop. But what I think my station has realized, even by looking at the comments of people when I share so truthfully about my own struggles about mental health and my podcast as well, is that addiction hits every family. Every single family. Everyone has an addict connected to their family, or you have a friend who's struggling. And I think when we understand that, right, when we understand that my station is so supportive, because that is Arizona's family. No family is perfect, right? And when I think that they saw that connection to me, I got to be honest with you, the amount of support that I get from our viewers is incredible. And that actually fuels me to continue to speak out. If I was hit with so many negative messages on an everyday level, I don't know if I'd be able to sustain that, you know? But I think the reality is that the more we remove the stigma, the more people that can come out of the shadows and truly ask for help, the more we realize that addiction is all around us.
Well, one thing that's interesting with addiction is, I think, because we're talking about drug and alcohol, there's food addiction.
Yeah, it comes out sideways in so many different ways.
There are so many other addictions that people have that are destructive and that may not kill them the same way, but it may affect their job, it may affect their family. So I think the overarching word addiction shouldn't just be, you know,
drugs and alcohol. No, I mean, people cope with sex. I mean, that's one thing, a taboo. People don't like to talk about sex addiction, even in the rooms of 12 steps. Like, people still don't want to talk about sex addiction, but it's a huge destructive part of our lives if it's not done healthy. But you have sex addiction, food addiction, gambling addiction. I mean, the shopping addiction. I mean, addiction doesn't have to be just drugs and alcohol. It's just an unhealthy habit that we use to, like, get out some of the darker aspects of our life that we can't control.
Well, your leadership in mental health, which I think is really important that we're all more aware of these days, and addiction is, you know, really special and impactful of what you're doing. And I appreciate you coming to share your story. And I do want you to come back, because I think we can cover more and help give more, you know, feedback to those that might need it. Hey,
anytime I'm ever invited to talk about mental health, I will always show up. That's one thing I was taught early on in recovery, that when somebody asks you to speak about mental health, you show up and you never say no.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate you too.
Thank you so much. Thank you for watching Now with Jen. We'll see you next time.